One of the biggest stories in the local news this week was certainly the Bernalillo County Commission's vote on the Centelina Master Plan. A debate over this proposed development has been going for months. Supporters say the development is needed to meet future needs as the city grows, while opponents say there's not enough water, and they question the projections of those potential residents and certainly jobs. Every week, we invite journalists, former lawmakers, community members, and other local leaders to share their reactions to stories like this. And I'm joined tonight with Laura Sanchez-Rive from Sanchez Legal Solutions, Dennis Domzalski, we finally snagged him, associate editor for the Albuquerque Free Press, Joey Peters, senior reporter with New Mexico Political Report, and Merritt Allen, owner of Vox Optima LLC. Now, Joe, you covered the meeting, all seemingly 3 days of it, from 1 o'clock to about 8 o'clock at night, interestingly. Right. You know, they approved the zoning changes and the Level A master plan, close vote 3-2, but there's still more on the table in the Centelina deal. Where do we go from here? There's one last piece of business. Well,
the next piece of business is the development plan, which is pretty much, you look at the master plan as pretty much from a bird's eye view looking down 20,000 feet. That's how one of the developers described it to me. The development plan is going to be very specific on how the first part of this gets built out. And there's actually, I believe this is development plan A, and there's still going to be B and C. C is building permits, so we've got a lot of steps.
Right. Interesting, Dennis, you know, you covered it as well. You were in the room, as they say. And did you hear anything or sense anything from the crowd even that tells you there's anything that's going to possibly turn this in some other way at this point?
No, there's nothing that's going to turn it, because it was clear from the start, back when they first started having these hearings, there was always going to be a 3-2 vote. I mean, that's real clear. So. No, there's nothing going to turn it around.
Yeah.
The problem, and I know the opponents are screaming about it, but in reality, there is no market right now for Centelina. There just isn't. You look at Mesa del Sol, which is 12,900 acres. They've got 154 houses out there, something like that. There's just no market. So I don't think anything's going to be built out there for at least 10 years, if that.
Interesting. Laura Sanchez, certainly the other side of the issue. We had SWAP in attendance in the audience. Javier Benavides, who's been here at our table many times, says there are going to be some legal maneuvers of some sort to be able to be taken. What do you think could possibly happen legally here at this point for those that are opposed?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, as with any case, there's procedural challenges and then there's substantive challenges.
Right.
I think procedurally, you know, it's hard to question at this point. We really have just gotten through the first phase of this. As Joey mentioned, there's a lot of other issues that have to come down, and all along the way, I think the commission will have to make sure that they procedurally follow everything, you know, down to the letter. I mean, they need to make sure everything's noticed, everything is properly vetted, everything is done publicly. Those are the kinds of potential procedural challenges that could come up. Substantive challenges could involve more of the details. Once that master plan or that development plan gets filed, the kinds of benchmarks that you see in those are going to be really important to meet. And that's why, especially this issue of the jobs, the 2-to-1 jobs, two jobs for every one rooftop is a really important factor to consider. I think the jobs aspect of it is about the only thing that a lot of people could potentially see as beneficial. I mean, of those who are, you know, sort of on the fence or opponents. And that's going to be a metric that's really important in this particular development, and one that they could be held to long term.
Interesting. Merritt, I'm going to go back to jobs here in a quick sec for everybody to take a cut at, but I want to finish this little bit with this. The idea that on its face, the folks, they released a statement, the Centelina folks, saying, you know, they're forecasting growth in excess of 300,000 new residents over the next 30 or 40 years. A lot of folks have difficulty seeing 10,000 people a year moving over here, you know, to break out the math a little bit, or births, or whatever the case may be.
Well, especially I think if you look at the last 7 years, where we've had no growth and actually a decline in some key numbers. That said, we got to do something. You know, there are, I think, many questions on what this is going to be, what kind of jobs, how much commercial development, and then on the other side, besides basics of water risk, are we going to overbuild the west side? Would that drive home properties down? Are we going to overbuild more? All of these are risks that I think have to be assessed, and I think the County Commission took a pretty conservative approach by saying, okay, master plan, we're not committing any subsidies, any resources right now, let's see what you got.
Interesting. On that point, Joey, you know, the subject of TIDs and other things came up in the council, or the commission rather, saw a way to actually block that, and that's not going to happen. Let's go to the jobs thing for a quick second. As Laura Sanchez mentioned, it really becomes a difficulty, again, this 2-to-1 metric. How does one hold feet to the fire on these kind of things? If you think about 25 years from now, or even just 10 years from now? How does that actually work? What do you put in place to make sure that happens?
I really don't know what we can do. They're promising 75,000 jobs within the next 40 to 50 years, and housing 90,000 people. And I really don't know how we can make them do that, honestly.
But Dennis, you know, we had commissioners saying you need to come up with a plan.
Well,
asking in real
that was
time.
Maggie Hart-Stebbins. She was actually absolutely right. Let me tell you the difference between Santa Elena and Mesa del Sol.
Okay.
Mesa del Sol worked out a deal with the city of Albuquerque where they agreed to bring in X number, a couple of thousand economic-based jobs. These are jobs whose goods and services are exported, bring new money into the economy. The only way you can grow an economy. They agreed to bring in X number of economic-based jobs per 1,000 houses or whatever. Right. But they could not build a single house until they had economic-based jobs out there. Right. So they worked out that deal with the city. Right now, there's nothing like that at Santa Elena. 75,000 jobs is fiction. It ain't gonna happen. Maggie Hart-Stebbins did a good thing. She actually tried to insert into the master plan a requirement that these be economic-based jobs. And then right away, Santa Elena, that's gonna kill the whole thing. But 75,000 jobs is a fantasy.
Sure. Where does it come down for you? I want to stay with you on this too, because, you know, I watched John Salazar and others, you know, at the podium saying, look, you know, a good job, a construction job's a good job. A part-time job's a good job. We should have to count it. This whole debate of what constitutes a job, where did we end up with that? It's hard to even...
Because what happened is Maggie Hart-Stebbins and I think Debbie O'Malley finally realized that there is a difference. You can't just, there are differences between jobs. And when you have an export or economic-based job, that's a job that grows your economy. Everything else slices the pie into thinner pieces. And so that's where that came up. That's, I think they did a good thing. Now, it wouldn't have gone anywhere because they're going to get crushed 3-2 no matter what. But that's, at least they brought it up. And I was furious over the time because no one was asking that question. And in Mesa del Sol, they had a requirement, they still do with the city, that any job that comes there has to be net new to the community. It cannot be cannibalized from elsewhere in the community.
Interesting. How did you hear it, Joey?
Well, I just wanted to say that the original promise with the 75,000 jobs did not include construction jobs. And at this meeting we saw basically the developers and the people behind Santa Elena switch this, and with the argument that it's a 50-year build out, a construction job, you could hypothetically be building Santa Elena for 50 years. Right. A full career.
Yeah. Commissioner De La Cruz was especially strong on that point as well. Merritt, again, moving forward from this point, we have legal possibilities. We've got, but as Dennis says, groundbreaking is not going to happen for quite a while here. But we've got other things going. Nothing happens in isolation. How do you think this is going to tip the balance of things on the west side? What's your sense of how this is all going to work, considering traffic, transportation, people have to get there to get jobs and back and forth? What's your sense of how it will work, so to speak?
Well, I think that's pretty unclear right now because there are not a lot of details. We've seen the jobs number and the ratio number, and that's fantastic. Dennis and Joey have given good descriptions on what these jobs could mean. And very true, I think we've seen on the west side and particularly in Rio Rancho where growth and roads have not supported each other. And if we're going back and forth across the bridge, do we have, across the river, do we have the infrastructure for that? That said, I'm going to say that again, we need to do something. I think it's a first step. I think all the questions everyone has brought up are certainly items that the county and Santa Elena and the developers are going to have to address in a concrete way.
Exactly right. Laura, again, how do we finish this? How, the folks that are opposed, so nobody should just go home, certainly, at this point.
And they're not going to.
Absolutely.
And I think they're going to continue to watch this very closely and participate and get a lot more, as many people as possible to weigh in. And then we're looking at, you know, we're going to be starting an election year here pretty soon. There's already people that are out there talking about running for commission. You know, some of those commissioners are up for re-election next year. I think it's going to be a tough election year for them because of this vote.
Interesting. Up next, we hear how Santa Clara Pueblo is still dealing with the impact of the Las Conchas wildfire that devastated the forest around the Pueblo 4 years ago.